I was like so surreal. And then I go back, I sit back on the side of the stage, right? And I was watching the rest of the show, and all of a sudden someone taps on my shoulder. I turn around and it's Big Sean.
What is going on, everyone? It's Justin here, and welcome back to the Feature Podcast. I am joined by my co-host Brandon and a special guest today, Henry Hwu, who is a photographer and my friend who I met at Canon. He lives in Vancouver, and he flew 10 minutes to join us.
Flight this time.
Yeah, a big plane, business class in the Airbus.
Wouldn't want to be anywhere else but an Airbus to Victoria.
So I'm going to let you introduce yourself, let everyone know what you do, what you like to shoot. Obviously, you're a big photographer on Instagram, and you got a lot of great stories to tell. So I'm going to let you take it away.
Yeah, so I'm a photographer based in Vancouver. I haven't fully went into video yet, but that's something that I'm working on. But basically, what I like to shoot is a lot of concert event photography, mostly towards the music I like to listen to, so hip-hop. So I'm huge into like the festivals, as well as I like to kind of mix my style into landscape as well. So not just the concert, right? So a lot of traveling, which works into my job at Air Canada, which I'll go into later. And pretty much just a little bit of both concert and lifestyle and landscape, but I'm not limited to those. I like trying new things, but just finding my style between those two is just what I have my passion in when it comes to photography.
Any plans to join the tech industry?
For now, no.
You also love streetwear. Low-key Hypebeast, you would say?
I could say that. You can just watch the video on your channel.
Yeah, we featured Henry's bedroom tour where he had like the huge Jordan collection, tons of Supreme, all the cool stuff that I would want, and in one room. And it was just very nicely put together. And Brandon, being a big Supreme guy as well, we all like the same stuff. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm still the worst dressed.
That is a nice
BOGO.
I was looking it up earlier. I was staring at his hoodie. I'm like, man, you know, if I was going to get back into Supreme at 26 years old, I'd be like, that'd be the hoodie I'd get. It's about $2,000 online right now. So maybe everyone else is thinking the same thing as me.
Not a bad investment.
We got a lot to talk about, though. We have the photo side, obviously like the business and the industry, as well as like your relation with like shooting artists, music festivals, and how to get into that, because that's like what everyone wants to shoot. Right. Concerts, having great access to that kind of stuff, and also traveling the world and shooting like fit pics and the boat story in Iceland, and yeah, there's so where do we want to?
I just like how you got into photography in the first place. Like, when did you first pick up the camera and figure like I want to kind of pursue this a little bit more?
Wow. Okay. So let's start. I think it was around 2012 to 2013 on actually through Instagram. There was a big surge of like the iPhone only like photography, right? Where back then it was kind of like considered cheating to use anything other than an iPhone to take pictures. I don't know if you guys remember.
I do. Yeah.
It was a big surge,
there were pages,
Well, that's how Instagram started. It was supposed to be with just your mobile.
Yeah, right. So basically that really interested me, but it wasn't something that I was fully ready to kind of take on as like a hobby or a passion, right? So I started working for Air Canada in 2013, and through that, they offer really, really good travel benefits. So I was able to visit a lot of the world I haven't seen before, and that's when I realized like what better way to document it than have a camera and kind of take pictures, which I had no idea what I was doing, but it was cool for me to kind of keep a catalog of where I've been with working with Air Canada, as well as kind of seeing how it would take, like how and where photography would take me, because back then it was just something that I really had a passion for, developing by traveling. And when I started to do that, I realized that it was something that I really, really liked doing, and something that I could see myself doing, right? So I grew my portfolio through there and started sharing my pictures on Instagram, and getting traction through there and getting the feedback is something that I really, really liked, because everything was just very instant, right? Yeah. It wasn't like you had to submit it to like a publisher or whatever, right? It was something that you could share with your friends, at the same time stay connected, and at the same time also see parts of the world that I've never seen before, right? So through there, and then the whole concert photography side of it is something that I struggled kind of entering that market, because it's not something that's very easy to enter as someone that's never taken photography for shows, right? But
well, what makes it so hard to enter?
I think it's because
Mike, distance.
oh, sorry.
Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. So entering the concert photography world is tough because first of all, there's so many people wanting to get into it, right? I think that's the first thing. And the second thing is that there's a lot of people that that do it for a profession, and there's a lot of people that do it just because they want to, I don't know how to explain, I don't know the right word, but kind of just want to be known to be involved in that kind of work,
for sure.
right? So for me, it was something that I wanted to do just for fun. I could care less about the money, right? So when I first started, the first show I actually shot, I would say, is actually Khelani. So she was in Vancouver. I think this was in 2015 or 2014. Anyways, I actually snuck my camera into that event, and didn't really know what I was doing, just firing shots. And I looked at them at the end of the night, and I was happy to get one photo that I liked. And
so you weren't even invited to this one.
No.
You just snuck it in.
No,
You're like, you know what? If you're not going to bring me in on this, I'm just going to sneak it in myself and take the photos.
Yeah, I bought my ticket, and I went in there just trying to get one good photo. And I didn't know what I was doing. Most of the photos were like really overexposed. They were all shot in JPEG. Like it was pretty bad. But looking back at it, that feeling that I got when I got that photo that I liked is something that hasn't changed until today. And that's something that kind of fuels my passion when it comes to photography, and just no matter how much time you spend, just getting that photo that you envision getting is something that's worth any effort trying to get.
Yeah, and like the whole, like, I'm guessing with artists and everything, a lot of which is like who you know in the space as well.
Right,
I'm sure there's plenty of photographers where the photos might not be as good, but they know the right people, and as a result of that, and I think with sports we see that a lot as well. Whoever's been in it for a while, sort of thing. What are some of the music events that you've shot, and just like do like a rapid fire of some of the artists that you've taken photos of at events, because there's a long list, and I'm not like as well versed in like the hip hop industry and rap music as you guys might be, but a lot of these are like really big names that people would dream of shooting or seeing up close.
Right. So I started shooting a lot of local events, so like concerts. But if you're talking about festivals, I've shot some local ones like Faded in the Park. I've shot Pemberton. And actually, like a side story, I actually met Brandon the first time at Pemberton. I knew him,
a lot of people.
I knew him through Instagram, and I actually was just running through the field. And I think I met him and a couple of his buddies, and right away, like when I saw him, we knew. And then we did like a little 5-minute photo shoot, which actually turned out pretty sick with his brand. And then,
do you guys have the photos?
Yeah, I think it's up on my
archive.
It's up on my. And I brought him up, so this guy convinced me to bring all the photos off the archive.
Oh yeah.
So we can throw it up right here. It was a sweet shot because you weren't allowed to bring cameras in, and then you had the pass to be able to take photos. Yeah, it turned out really nice. The mountains in the background.
Yeah. So starting locally, and then I started working with Rolling Louds. Rolling Loud, in case no one knows, which they probably do, but it's one of the biggest hip hop only festivals in the world, and they've expanded from just within California. Actually, they started in Miami, but they've expanded to places like Australia, Portugal. Did one in Hong Kong, Japan, and they've gone global. And I think ever since the first time I worked with them, they've invited me on board to any of them I could make. And obviously with my connections at Air Canada, it's easy to fly
leveraging is key, like we like to talk about.
Oh yeah.
Got to use the finesse.
Yeah, so that pretty much is where I stand today. And whenever I'm available, I'll fly out and shoot those shows when needed. So yeah.
For sure, yeah. So like, so you work full time with Air Canada. Have you ever thought about like going with photography full time, or is it like, do you like it as like a passion project?
I have thought about it many times, but I stand behind having it as a hobby.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because number one, being at Air Canada gives me a lot of flexibility. So I'm not stapled to like a 9 to 5 Monday to Friday. I'm on like I only work half the year just to start off, right? So.
A good balance.
Yeah, so I don't mind taking on a few projects here and there, but I'm worried at the fact that it would interfere with my passion if I started taking on like an everyday thing, right? So that's where I stand.
I remember we talked about that when we first met at Canon with the ESR launch, and I think I was flying through Vancouver to Toronto, and you were already on your flight, and you're like, yo, where are you going? I was like, I'm going to Toronto. And we found out we both were at the Canada event, and only 15 were invited. So I was like, that's cool, like, because we never met up in Vancouver. And we get there, and his flight obviously lands on time. He's nice and early. My flight's delayed, and he goes and enters this raffle for the Off-White Blazers, and we're
instant dub.
Yeah. Well, we met up at the hotel, grabbed some dinner, and it must have been like midnight. He gets this message, and he's like, oh, another W.
Wait, so from landing, because you were on time, you could go to the raffle.
Yeah,
Couldn't.
In-person raffle. So I had
That's great.
The joy of going with him to get his pair at retail the day after, and we ended up like going to Toronto Island, shooting some pics. It was overall pretty chill event. But yeah, like a lot of times people that we meet on the internet, we like talk on Instagram for quite a while, and it's not until like there's like an industry event where it brings people together, and from there you kind of become friends, hang out, and then I think like there's a lot of stories of that, especially someone like myself who doesn't really go out. Everyone I meet is like from the internet.
Yeah, some of my best friends I actually met through the internet, like Matt and Sasha were all just purely from Instagram. I think it's that positivity when you're posting and you're on there, you're supporting each other.
Right.
And it's like, yo, dope pic. I remember how it was back in 2015.
Fire
it was just
fire fit.
Yeah, right. It was just good energy going around. You're just fire emojis, whatever. Everyone was commenting on each other's pictures.
For the most part, there's always some beef on. There's always a little bit of beef on Instagram. The outfits, Hypebeast, especially with Asians. I think like when I wear the Hypebeast stuff and they see like Asians dressed in a certain way, they're like, oh, like this guy's a poster kid for Hypebeast and this and that. Like, but it's whatever.
No, I've gotten some funny comments being posted on like compliments or whatever. I get a good chuckle here and there though, but it's all love at the end of the day. As long as I'm happy doing whatever I do, then fuck everyone else.
100%.
Yeah. What's when you were, so you got into the Khelani show, like when what was the first event where you were actually like invited to and started to really build out? Nice.
Which is very, very important to me even before his passing, and his team actually gave me a chance, and it was something that resonated because of how welcoming he was, no matter how big he was as an artist, right? He gave me that chance, and that was what I believe helped me get into a lot of bigger shows, and which snowballed into where like the festivals and knowing people in the music industry. And going back to what you said, it's very connected. So if you can get the recommendation of one person, then it opens up so many doors, right? So
for sure. Yeah, like just going through your Instagram feed, like you shot for Post Malone, Lil Pump, Kid Cudi, Drake. What are some other like from your favorite artists?
I'd probably name the artists that I haven't shot that I want to shoot. And up there, let's just stick with just, I guess, the hip hop genre.
Yeah.
I have yet to shoot Kanye like officially. I shot him with an iPhone like when he came to Vancouver on the St. Pablo.
Were you in the mosh pit?
I was. Yeah.
Same here. We didn't run into each other though because there was a couple thousand people all wearing the same thing.
Yeah, I know. So
everyone wearing Yeezys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was getting stepped on. I wore Yeezys that one. It was not a great idea, but that was funny that you were there too. Did you see the part where he threw his hat and people were like jumping over it? So Sebastian was actually right next to that. Wow. I was wondering why he didn't dive for it. He instead decided to take an iPhone video. I was like, man, you totally could have just.
Yeah, that concert was sick.
Trying to survive.
It was good. Yeah, that was only my second concert actually.
Oh, really?
But yeah, I wonder where the media would have been because the pit is.
The media was actually like kind of on the first level, like kind of back by the bleachers.
So you had a better view from the pit.
Yeah, you were better off just having a phone and just running in there and just going wild. So
that was good memories. That was like it must have been 2015, 2016. Yeah. Let you continue on like.
Yeah. So one artist that sticks out to me that I really, really want to shoot is Childish Gambino. I have yet to shoot him, and I just feel like his energy, not only through his music, but from the performance I've seen him, as well as Frank Ocean. I have not shot him yet, so that would be really cool to shoot those two. But everyone else that I've really, really wanted to shoot, for example, like J. Cole, like Travis Scott, so fun to shoot. He's wild on stage. And Drake I've shot a few times. So yeah, pretty much everyone that I wanted to shoot I've shot. So
what is it when you're shooting that, is there a moment that you're looking for on stage out of the artist?
Yeah, so when I'm shooting an artist, what do you mean by that? Like just
like when you're out there shooting, like you want the final product to be something special.
Right.
So is there a moment or a part of the song that you kind of expect an artist to do something crazy, or are you just kind of shooting as it goes and hoping for a good shot?
No, I like to, before when I first started, I did a lot of like blind shooting, just like hold the trigger, right? But now I like when an artist pauses between songs, I feel like that's the moment where you can get a lot of emotion just in between songs, just when they're kind of like paused and in that zone, right? But obviously it's different for every artist, right? Like for example, J. Cole is going to be a lot easier to shoot than Travis Scott, just like running over the place, right? So,
and their sets, like a lot of times each song has a different view. Funny enough, the only artist I've ever shot, not officially, was Logic. He was at a Samsung event in New York, and Samsung, I guess, could only afford like 4 songs.
Yeah.
And I lined up at the front for about an hour with the 1DX and everything. That thing shoots like 18 frames per second, which we never use. But it was, I think I messaged you. I was like, man, I've got like 2,000 photos in 20 minutes, and I don't know which one's good or bad, because they all look like similar in a certain way that I couldn't tell between which one was a good one. It was just I didn't know his songs that well, so he would just be jumping around, he'd be doing his thing, and I would just fire it off, and you can kind of see like where the colors changed a little bit. But yeah, that's cool that you brought up that in between they kind of pause a little bit, and it's like where you get the most like raw moment a lot of times, and with Kanye too, where he like sometimes, I think if you remember from St. Pablo, he did have in the concert, he had a few pauses where he was just completely quiet, and and people were just waiting for what he was going to say next. On the side of like on the Drake story, you mentioned that
what Drake story?
He borrowed one of your photos once.
Yeah, well, I was actually in Hong Kong at the time, and the show was in September. I think, if I can remember correctly, it was 2016. It was the Summer 16 tour with Future. Yeah. And he came to Vancouver, and one of my homies, Anthony, Ant Solo on Instagram, he's one of my favorite photographers for capturing that kind of stuff. But he gave me the opportunity to shoot Drake, and through that, I posted one of the photos. It was a black and white of Drake, and I posted it, I think the day before I went to Hong Kong, and I was in Hong Kong, and I think I just landed, and I got a bunch of tags on Instagram. I didn't even get any messages saying, like, Drake posted your photo or reposted or whatever, and I got a bunch of tags. It was like at Henry Hwu from a bunch of my buddies, right? So I look at the photo, and right away I kind of felt mad in a way, because not only did he take the photo, but he slapped some IG filter on it, and it turned he turned a black and white photo into like a blue photo, which I don't know how that works. But anyways, first I was kind of upset, but after it was like, whatever, like the people that know who I am and they know who took the photo will know it's me, right? So those are, I guess, the only people I really cared about, the fact that they reached out and told me that I took that photo, right? So over time, it's nice because it's still on his page. You can find it, and it's a good memory, and it reminds me of like,
you could say Drake stole your photo. Yeah, a lot of people can say Drake shot my photo, but not many people can say Drake stole my photo and put a filter on it.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's all love.
Did he tag you in it?
No.
Oh,
what's up? Maybe he'll watch this and tag me after he sees.
We'll try. We'll push.
One thing you were talking about, Mac, when you first got invited there, was the support that you felt. Like, what's the story behind the relationship you with Logic?
Oh wow,
and that sort of support.
That is a very big story. But
yeah,
if you want me to talk about it, I can.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So Logic is someone that I met, not personally, but I found out through online, just through like. Back in I don't know if you guys remember about like trick shotting and stuff on Call of Duty.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that was like must have been
like FaZe Clan back in like 2011, 2010.
When I was in middle school and you guys were just finishing high school then.
It was the era of YouTube, man. Yeah,
it was crazy. Yeah. So they had YouTube videos they put music over, right? And they use artists like E-Double, like High Res, like all these old cats, and they used Logic on one of them, and he was actually released a song called The Spotlight, and he was wearing a FaZe hoodie in that video. And that instantly got me hooked. And at the time I was playing a lot of Call of Duty, so I would obviously try to use a lot of those songs, but his music, when he released them, it just had a lot of lyricism and meaning behind it, and I could really kind of fall back behind that.
For sure.
And so basically I started a fan page on Twitter, which is still there. This was back when I was like around 17 maybe, or 16, and it's called Shit Logic Says, and it was basically like a page to show any news or any like lyrics or stuff that has to do with Logic, right? So I was just tweeting on that here and there, just kind of following him as he got bigger, right? And he caught wind of that account, and he messaged me one day, and he was like, yo, like, thank you so much for supporting me. Like, one day when I do a show, you should come out and we should meet. And I was like, yo, that's what's up. And he didn't know who I was at the time. It was just me behind that account. So that was around the same time that I started working for Air Canada 7 years ago. So through that, I actually met him in Seattle, and he actually came to Vancouver, but it was a 19 plus show, and I was 18 at the time, so there's no way I could get in, right? So that was really upsetting, but I drove to Seattle, met him, and it was during the meet and greet, and at the very end, I was like, hey, like, this is me, like I run this account. And he was like, oh shit, like that's you. And then that's when he, I guess, put a name to my face.
Yeah.
And I actually flew out to one of his shows when he was on tour with Kid Cudi. So I flew out in Montreal at the Bell Center, and he was opening up for Kid Cudi and Big Sean, right? And he brought me backstage, like showed me love and let me watch the show from the side of the stage, right? And he was just performing his last song, and he was like, yo, like I got a special guest that flew all the way up from Vancouver. So he brings me out on stage.
That's so sick.
I was like starstruck. Like, it was just like a complete big stadium, some random guy flew up from Vancouver. And I was like so surreal. And then I go back, I sit back on the side of the stage, right? And I was watching the rest of the show, and all of a sudden someone taps on my shoulder. I turn around, and it's Big Sean. And Big Sean goes, he goes, hey, like, nice to meet you. I'm Big Sean. Nice. And I was like, in my head, I was like, no shit, right? And then, so his whole team showed me love, and I didn't get to meet Kid Cudi then, but basically through there, he just kind of realized that I was like kind of more like a serious, like kind of supporter, I guess. And since then, fast forward to today, he's like invited me to LA to listen to his debut album. I'm in his couple of his albums, like in the covers.
You are in the cover, yeah. I just remember that there was you're behind the pole taking a photo, right?
Yeah.
What camera was it? Wait, a Sony?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't a camera. I was just holding the pole, but
really?
It wasn't actually holding a camera or anything.
I think he shouted you out in the album too, right?
Yeah.
One of the lyrics, I think.
Yeah.
I do remember that song.
What was the lyric? Do you remember?
I don't remember. It's like something like, he just said my name. Yeah.
And it was he's been out to Vancouver a few times.
Yeah, he has. He's been here about, I think, 4 or 5 times. Oh, wow. Yeah, so he likes it a lot here. So hopefully he comes and visits more. But he just had his first son. So.
Oh really?
Yeah. Congrats to him.
Wow, man, that's it just goes to show when once you get your foot in the door, what can really happen.
Right. Yeah. Like, it's insane.
Starting up a shit, Logic says, like, what a good idea, man. It's 17, you got all this time, like, why not? You know, you like this artist,
right?
Just do something with it, and look how it transpired for you. What's next for you in the photography world coming up here?
For next, I want to keep traveling, but obviously right now is not the most convenient time to travel. But it actually gave me time to kind of reflect on the stuff I've produced and what I can do with it.
For sure.
And I think photographers specifically, I think they lose sight of kind of what they've captured and what they can do with it. What I mean by that is, like, we capture all these images, right? But another side to photography is like the business side and being able to market it like through tangible goods like books or prints or whatever, right?
Presets.
Yeah, presets. Yeah.
Creator Effects bundle, color bundle, Henry Hwu bundle.
Yeah, there's just so much
a lot
to
of
do.
them.
Yeah. Whether it's
but yours did quite well.
Yeah, it did.
Better than mine. I mean, the presets are better too, but
yeah, but going back to what you said, like what's next for me, I think I want to release another book. I want to do more shows, and I want to collaborate with more artists in being able to showcase my work and their work on a bigger platform. And yeah, just be able to send a message through my photography, which is basically just to do what you love and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And yeah, pretty much like you said, you can do anything you set your mind to. And when you kind of follow that goal, either you know what you're doing or you don't know what you're doing, like you'll be able to take on stuff that you never imagined, and that could lead you to another path you never imagined, sure. Right? So basically just focus on what you're doing, and yeah, time will take you wherever you are destined to be, I guess.
What would you say is like the best way to make each concert different or exciting? Because I think I'm guessing with shooting artists, every concert's a little bit different city, different vibe. They try to change it up a little bit, but yeah. Like obviously comparing it to tech, it's like it's at the end of the day you get a little bit bored of it and you lose appreciation for it once you have to do it so often. I'm guessing like first few phones that I reviewed, I was very excited for, but now after you're a few hundred in, you kind of lose the magic to it. Right. With like concerts, I'm sure like the first few were extremely special. Does it get a little bit less interesting over time, or like what are some ways to?
I mentioned before, like that's the main reason why it goes back to that question of how you asked if it was my hobby or it was something that I did like full time, right? So being able to kind of leverage that and being able to pick who I want to shoot and when I want to shoot them, that really, really helps, right?
For sure.
Yeah. So, and then also the fact that I mentioned that feeling of getting that photo is something that always sticks throughout anything, whether it's landscape or a concert, which are two totally different things, but something that keeps you going, and just being able to create and show people like certain places or certain things, being at a concert, being able to feel that emotion without actually being able to attend physically is something that I strive for.
And was music something that you always like grew up enjoying and stuff? Because I know like your brother as well has a great story in the music space. Tell him about like the Travis Scott. And
So if you've seen a video on the internet with an Asian kid rapping with Travis Scott and he gets a hat that he pulls out of nowhere, that's my little brother.
And it's still going around TikTok, Instagram, and everything.
See it here and there.
It's cool that you guys like very similar things in the music space. Like I personally suck at memorizing lyrics. Like if Travis Scott gave me a mic, I'd have to pass it. I wouldn't even know the title of the song. Like I'd hear stuff, but I can't memorize lyrics.
Yeah. It's all good.
Yeah, it's all good, man.
I don't think you understand what you did, baby boy. I don't think you understand what you just did for the whole Vancouver, baby. Everybody make some noise. This is important. Just me.
Just listen to EDM, no lyrics to memorize.
Yeah, right. There you go.
Yeah.
What are some, I know you love to shoot like fashion as well, whether
Yeah.
it's while you're traveling and you have your brother model like certain shirts,
Right.
you have like a huge collection of nice
Yeah.
Supreme stuff, a lot of which that you got for retail, which I'm very jealous of. But tell them about some of the photos that you've gone to the most extreme lengths to capture. I'm implying on the Dubai one where you're wearing your
yeah.
brand new Chicago Jordan 1s, whether or not you wore those through the entire sand dune, and also the boat in Iceland. Okay, so spoiler alert, I did not wear those off-whites going up the desert. But after that picture, I have worn them in places that I shouldn't have, and they are beat, and I do not regret it. But
Especially because you only paid how much for them?
and whatever retail was, 190 or
10 times less than what I had to pay.
yeah. At least I wear them.
Yeah,
What was the, not, I guess not coolest,
Well, the
but like
Iceland
what was
photo.
the most like significant photo that's in like the one that means the most to you?
Wow, this is hard.
We gotta finish up the Iceland photo.
Oh yeah.
The one where he
you guys-
flew out to the lake to get that one, and then he got on Complex and
Oh yeah, that one. Yeah, that's probably like my wildest, I guess, mission I've been on to get a certain photo. So
What did you do?
So Supreme released a lookbook for this Supreme inflatable kayak, right? So I saw that and instantly wanted to get a photo with it. My original plan was to get one in Alberta, like on one of those like blue like moraine lakes, right?
yeah, like that.
Which I did actually end up getting.
Yeah.
Sitting in a Supreme inflatable kayak with my Chicago off-white Jordans, right?
Yeah,
Just hilarious. I find it hilarious. But anyways, the one I took in Iceland, I took it all the way there. We actually had two of them, me and my buddy Luca and my brother. And we were really upset because the weather that day was like really shitty and we couldn't see, there's no visibility or whatever. So then we weren't even going to do that photo at first, right? But we came all the way there, not to get that photo, sorry, but went out there and pumped up the kayaks, went out there, and it actually ended up being like better than what I thought because it was so misty that it kind of looked like he was in like.
And this is Iceland?
Yeah, this is in Iceland.
So how far did you fly to take that photo?
It was like around 9 hours.
9 hours?
9 hours of flying and like 15 hours of driving.
And how many hours like there?
Oh, we were there for like 4 or 5 days.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Was the low-key main intention of flying out there to get that one photo?
Yeah, sure. Let's say that.
And so you're out there and you get this like nice like misty photo. It's just
Right.
like so raw and it looks cool. Like it literally. Well, Iceland is kind of in the middle of nowhere. It looks like it's in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
Like you're just going into like you don't know what's in front of you, kind of. But was it an iceberg though?
Yeah, there was it was a glacier lake. So
glacier.
there's a lot of icebergs around and stuff. Glaciers, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that one, and Complex and everybody was sharing it, and it was just getting like I saw it all over the place,
Yeah.
and
It was getting love, it was getting hate, but at the end of the
Was
day,
it?
it was getting attention to my page. So
were people was mad that you put it in the water?
kind of, but then it defeats the whole purpose because what are you supposed to do with it? Display it? Like it's a kayak, you're supposed to use it to whatever you want, like in the water, right?
How far did you paddle?
Paddled probably about 40, 50 feet.
Oh, 40.
Yeah.
I thought you said 40 to 50 minutes out in
Oh,
Iceland,
no,
and
no,
next thing
no.
you know, Coast Guard's wondering sees this guy in Chicago Jordan 1s floating around in a Supreme raft, and he's
Yeah.
like, "Dude, how cold is that water?" If you had
Dude, you would have been done for sure.
far in the negatives.
Yeah, far in the negatives.
So
Yeah.
that's the ocean, right? These are probably really stupid questions. You could tell I didn't do very well in geography, but it was the ocean, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Is it stable or is
It was okay. It was questionable because we didn't know really what we were floating into. We could have hit an iceberg and easily capsized in that little tiny ass boat.
so? Forget about the story that you took an Airbus to Victoria. He took the Supreme raft to Victoria.
Yeah,
I've actually
Iceland.
I did have to go on a school trip once where we had to paddle on the same on a kayak the same route that the ferry goes.
Yeah.
It wasn't anywhere near on the way to Vancouver, but I figure how many hours do you think it would take to paddle to Vancouver
Oh my god,
from
a
Swartz
day?
Bay in a Supreme kayak?
Oh yeah, that would take forever.
No, that would take
at least a day.
2 weeks.
You have the life jacket too,
weeks?
right?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Yes,
I did.
yeah.
Did you wear the life
I
jacket?
did.
Oh, my.
It
So
was
where
in
is
the
that
picture.
raft now?
That raft is chilling in my parents' garage. Yeah.
Okay, we'll take it for a rip sometime.
We
The
will.
first time I go to Iceland, I'll make sure we take it home.
Pics.
One thing was your Times Square billboard.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Yeah, tell me about that.
So, oh, that's crazy. You mentioned that. I totally forgot. Anyways, I've been working with Reebok for almost 5 years now. Recently, I haven't been doing many projects, but a little backstory: how they found me was through the Hypebeast. So, which is crazy because that kind of ties into just the power of social media and being able to reach such an audience that you never could, right? So Hypebeast posted one of my photos in Hong Kong. It was again like from the perspective of my feet, and I was wearing Bread Ones at a really colorful court in Hong Kong, right? So Hypebeast posted that, and maybe about 2 months later, I got an email from Reebok, and it said, "Hey, like we saw your photos on Hypebeast, or we saw your photos like floating around at your shoe shots, and we really liked your perspective, and we were wondering if you want to hop on a call." And at first, because this was one of the first brand deals I took on, I kind of was like, yeah, like I replied right away, like almost instantly. And I was like, hey, yeah, like here's my number, phone me whenever, without even asking like what any type of compensation was. I was willing to do it, I guess, as an experience, right?
Yeah.
So
A portfolio piece,
Yeah.
get that brand name.
yeah, so they reached back with me with a contract. I had no idea. I didn't understand it at all, right? So they sent me this contract, and it said they wanted 10 photos, and they were paying me a very decent amount. And I was like, that kind of opened my eyes, because after shooting that project, they really, really liked the photos. And I didn't feel like it was work to me, because from day one, they told me that they wanted me to get photos like exactly like I was doing before, but just with their shoes, right? And to be able to tell a story with those whether it's in Vancouver, or whether I'm in Hawaii or in Hong Kong or Dubai or whatever, I took these shoes wherever I traveled, and I gave them that perspective of being able to wear these in any environment, right? So I took a lot of projects with them. I shot like a couple of Kendrick projects. They flew me out to Coachella. I did a project with them there. I went to like places I never like even thought I'd visit. Like I went to Philly, I went to Boston, I visited their headquarters back in 2018. And yeah, so basically through that, they gave me, one of the last projects they gave me was a huge campaign. They partnered up with Foot Locker, Champs, Ladies Foot Locker, and I think one more shoe outlet. I can't remember. But anyways, I did a huge project, and not knowing that they were going to use it for a billboard until after they asked, I shot this project. It was specifically to be used in retail locations in the US.
Yeah.
So when you're shopping for shoes, you'll see like an example photo, and that would be my photo, right?
Yeah.
So that was already so cool for me, right? I was
Foot
ready
Locker and
Foot Locker, Champs, stuff like that, right? Actually, one ended up being in Metrotown.
Really?
Yeah, so it's really cool. But anyways, they email me one day and they say, hey, like, we want to use one of these photos, and it might be in one of our campaigns in Times Square, right? So right off the bat, I was like, yeah, sign me up. And they were willing to pay me as well, take care of me there.
I was going to say, man, Times Square would be a debate between do I charge them a fat licensing fee, because usually they do like specific retailer licensing deals, like HP, for example, Costco, Staples, Best Buy. So it is one of those things where like every creator wants to have their stuff in Times Square. Like with Samsung, I've tried to get it in Times Square, but yeah, that's good that they offered the licensing, because I was going to say, like, a lot of times it'd be like a big debate between whether you charge them a big fee or just get in Times Square just to be able to go there and see your work that large.
So they were really flexible, and they from day one, they always wanted to work with what worked with me, right?
Yeah, which is rare. Like, surprisingly, companies are always like, they hire you for what you do, but there's a lot of times you still kind of get the nudge, like, oh, we want it a certain way, and at that point you're kind of like, well, it's not really my so that's cool that they just said, like, go do your thing.
Yeah. So anyways, I got a text message from one of my agents at Reebok, and they sent me like videos or whatever.
Yeah.
And, like, that was so cool already to see my stuff there. So then the next day I booked a flight to New York with my buddy, and we stood in that spot, waited about 15 minutes for it to roll through, and then bam, there's my work. And that feeling, just being able to look up and just see this, like, in New York, right? Like, that's everyone's dream.
We'll put that photo on screen. I think this is a very visual episode where we'll have a lot of image examples of it. I remember you did post a photo of that.
Yeah.
How big was that around?
I don't know the scale, but it was big enough to be able to turn your head almost 180 degrees and see.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that was a special moment for me.
Does a photo look much more different when it's blown up on the sides like that, or?
Yeah, for sure. I think images, anything that looks bigger, like, always looks better.
Yeah, I'm wondering how they upscale that stuff. Like, how many? So a camera is like what, under 30 megapixels, and they're expanding it into something at a scale of what could be 50 to 50 feet and up.
At least, yeah.
That's crazy.
Were there requirements for what you were shooting it as?
There were requirements from day one, and actually, no, you're right. When they asked for that Billboard picture, they asked for like a specific DPI, and I sent it in like a TIFF or whatever, to make sure they can get the maximum resolution for that.
Just for like photographers, like concert and people who may be starting to license and are listening to this episode, what is like the industry standard for image format, DPIs? And because I know like with different cameras that we use, there's like the editorial and publication ones, the 5Ds and stuff like that. But then there's also the 1DX, which is a lower megapixel count. It's made for like, if you want to be a paparazzi or like do sports, you're essentially getting a camera that you're able to just export as many photos as possible that are ready to go in a short period of time. What is like considered the industry standard file format that a brand for either an editorial or just for artist deliverables would expect?
For personal use, I'd say always the rule obviously is shoot in RAW, right?
Yeah.
So you can recover whatever you need, right?
Sure.
And when it comes to for brand stuff, I think personally I haven't worked with as many that to get like a kind of like a standard, but from what I've done, usually it's just 300 DPI, usually TIFF, but it also depends on what they're using the photos for, whether it's online marketing or if it's just like social, then it doesn't have to be as like as picky when it's just Instagram or Twitter or whatever, right? So
another like little like sensitive topic almost in the photography industry is sending raw files.
Yeah, that's a no from me.
Yeah, I feel like for a lot of photographers that's like that's a no.
Well, the reason people probably ask for them is because of the turnaround time. Some guys are waiting so long for a photo.
Yeah, but then they're going to ruin the photo a lot of the times. It's completely different from what the photographer intended it to look at. Because you shoot the photo, especially a great photographer like yourself, you shoot the photo specifically based on how you plan to edit it. Whereas in my case, I'm just shooting a RAW just so I can fix it at home and not have to stay out there any longer.
And
but
that goes back to what I was saying about whatever is published on the internet, anybody can see.
Yeah.
Right. And people, although I feel like today the attention span is next to none online, but just if, for example, if someone saw a photo that somebody claimed was taken by me but edited by them, I could potentially lose one of my future clients.
Because retouching is a different story, right? Like for publications, a lot of times, they have professionals retouch it, and a lot of times they do a great job, like on like Forbes and all those kind of things. What percentage of photography skill would you say is attributed to how good of a shooter you are versus how good of an editor you are? Because I know people who are great at editing, but their shooting is kind of like it could be better. But they're, especially in video, it's very obvious. Some people are really good at special effects, but the way they shoot is like the fundamentals just aren't there. Like, what would you say that like percentage split is?
I'd say probably 50-50.
Yeah.
Just because a lot of like what I strive for with my work is I want people to see my photo and say that's something that I took, right? That's my photo without even seeing it, whether they're scrolling or they're seeing some other page post it, right? So I think the post-processing is something that is never wrong or right. It's just something that works the best with you and something that can be consistent, that people can identify, kind of like your brand image, right? So I think that speaks volumes when it comes to your photography, or whether it's your videos, your certain styles, right, that stick.
How do you win sneaker raffles? A lot of them.
Just enter a lot of them with a lot of different names.
He's got a suspicious look on his face.
How many have you won?
How many of you got backdoored?
Yeah.
No backdoors. None of that.
Okay, good. Nice, honest.
Like
list like all the ones that you've won, like the most notable ones, because I feel like every pair that I had to pay resale for, this guy got it for retail.
Raffles, the off-white UNCs, I won those. I got the Blazers. I got the Chunky Dunkies. Got the Travis Air Jordan one.
Oof.
Travis Air Force one.
Oh.
A lot of Yeezys.
Did you get the Zebras?
No, I didn't get the Zebras, but I didn't pay $1,400 for them though.
I paid $2,400 actually.
Jesus Christ, you hear that? $2,400.
What's the highest amount you've gotten for one of your pairs of shoes? Because you've won some good ones, man. Those Travis Scott Air Force Ones
the
are
highest valued ones.
Chicago's easily
probably
right.
my Chicago's, but that was just off the Nike app. I wasn't. That was just
like that's what I mean.
Yeah,
how do you? Nobody wins a Nike app. Like nobody wins the Nike app, and that's like the one pair where it was so limited.
Yeah,
like I had troubles finding it. I had to get somebody, like some kid, to go scout a pair in like interior BC. I can't believe you got those.
They just go to sneakerheads, I guess.
Sneakerheads.
Yeah, I wore it. I guess that's what you're supposed to do, right?
Yeah. That's crazy though. Yeah, and how you just won one while we were in Toronto. Like,
yeah.
I've never had a pair. I don't have I haven't had the feeling of winning.
You don't enter any though.
I do the online ones, but I assume they're all rigged.
Yeah, most of them are, but they give out like a small percentage. But it's hard. Yeah.
I've only got one through the website, and that was because a friend of mine gave me one of those like bypass things on the Yeezy drop date. And I was doubting him, man. I'm like, there's no way this is gonna work.
Which one was it?
And it worked. It was the Tans, Yeezy Tans.
Okay, those were worth a decent amount.
Yeah, the 350s. That was when like 350s were hot. Yeah, man. I think it was dropped. Remember, there's Turtle Doves, and then Pirate Blacks, and then the Tans.
Yeah. And the Moon Rocks.
My first pair ever was
those were ugly, man. I didn't like those.
What was your first pair of Yeezys?
The 350s. Oh, dude, the Turtle Doves. I won off an Instagram raffle.
Oh my God.
What?
Yeah.
Do you still have them? You still have them, right?
I still wear them. They've been to like 15 countries. And yeah, the Turtle Doves, I entered by commenting my shoe size along with 30,000 other people, and I won.
Again, I feel like those are all rigged. I do the Twitter ones, like the Instagram ones, and sometimes I'm like, oh, maybe the following will help a little bit. Maybe it'll backdoor it. No, but it's never happened.
It worked out for you later on with your deal with StockX.
But I still had to pay for how many pairs before the satisfaction of getting something for retail is still so much better, especially like the Turtle Doves. I never had the Turtle Doves.
Yeah, they're still hot, but back then they were going for like 25.
Oh yeah.
I actually got the black 750s for retail. East Bay put out a restock thing, tweet at like 7 a.m. in the morning, and ended up just checking out a size 9.5, the perfect size.
Where were you when you won that?
You know exactly where I was.
Yeah, but that episode might have been dumped.
Yeah, I was sitting on the
dumped
toilet.
Literally, that episode might have been dumped.
I woke up to take a morning dump, and then I was on my phone, and the tweet went out. Boom, boom, boom.
Hell yeah.
It was like so intense where you're just like making sure you don't miss a click with your finger, and then it checked out. Holy man, didn't even I was excited. Let's just say
There
at
you
least.
go.
Yeah.
So if you had to pick one hoodie, one pant, and one shoe, one hat, what would that combination
man.
be? Because I know you've got a lot of fits. You
What
have
he's
quite a
wearing
few.
right now.
He has a few colors of BOGOs. He has the Stone Island stuff. You've got all the shoes that you could pick from.
Yeah.
You also love wearing hats.
Yeah.
I don't look good in hats, so I don't wear hats.
Let's go Hypebeast. Let's go some black cargos from Stone
I've only
Island.
seen you in Hypebeast stuff.
Let's go some black Stone Island cargos. Let's go.
Holy.
What was that?
They're moving stuff upstairs.
Oh.
I don't know. Let's go with some Chicago ones, some classic Chicago ones. Black hoodie, and a black hat.
Black hat.
All black with the red and white.
Nice. That's an OG
Yeah.
way to wear things.
Yeah, I had to offset that by wearing gray today. Usually it's everybody on this side's wearing black, and then Brandon's wearing a different color. Like when Keaton came, it was all black.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, you guys were chirping me for being at a wedding.
You were chirping for us for being at a funeral for Dangerfield
You were in all black.
and my YouTube channel.
Yeah, it's exactly it. How many BOGOs do you own?
7.
Poof. What started that collection?
What started it?
Yeah, man. Like,
Getting them for retail.
what? All right.
This guy has like the Supreme Band-Aid. You had like the mints. You had what are the weird Supreme? You had the anatomy one.
Yeah, pregnant woman anatomy set. I don't know. I got bamboo beaded curtain. I got Supreme teddy bears.
You've moved those since we filmed that video.
Yeah, I have.
Have you brought that style over to the new place, or have you left that behind a little bit?
I've lost some of it, but
Really?
yeah,
You did also buy my off-white rug.
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
Middle of the living room?
Yeah, it's in the middle of my living room. yes.
God.
Has your style kind of simplified over the years now?
I think so. I think it's less about like just buying whatever they put out versus what I actually use and what I want, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, once you've won so many things at retail,
Yeah.
the magic is kind of fades away.
Mm.
The excitement,
yeah.
the satisfaction of taking the morning dump and realizing you just got a pair of 750s for retail kind of fades after the 4th time, after the 15th time.
And that's what you don't want to happen in photography, and that's why you keep it as a hobby.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
You want that fresh.
So I think a good way to transition, as much as you're allowed to talk about, is what are the benefits to working at an airline?
Benefits to working in an airline.
And what are some countries that you've flown to, and what is like the shortest amount of time? I think you've even mentioned that you've gotten off of one plane and went straight to work.
Yeah, I have.
Which for you is not as bad because you're not a
No.
flight attendant. If you were a flight attendant and you had to sit on the same plane that you were just working on, that would be a bit weird, right?
Yeah, that's kind of weird. Actually, when I did my gallery in Vancouver, I hopped off a flight from Dubai and went straight to there. Yeah, I was
Dubai.
pretty messed up that day, but I went from Dubai to Toronto, 14 hours, and then Toronto to Vancouver, 5 hours. So pretty much 20 hours. And then I landed at like 3 p.m. And then I picked up all my prints and then we set up for the gallery.
This guy trying to save on some shipping costs.
Yeah, that was pretty wild. But yeah, perks of working for an airline is obviously the cheap fares, just being able to brag to all my friends how much I pay.
Yeah, like the flights are literally double
Yeah,
digits.
2 figures,
2 figures.
anywhere in the world.
A lot of things that we can compare it to. 2 figures. So what? That's the same amount that we have to pay for Wi-Fi on a 3-hour
Wi-Fi's
flight.
on a 3-hour flight, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah.
Your Uber.
traveling's expensive. Even when it's free, it's expensive. Unless you're getting the flight for
Yeah.
That's crazy though.
Yeah, so,
Was this a perk that built up over time, or is this like kind of for
it's
every
6
employee?
months out the gate you can get access to these employees. That's just for my airline, but I've heard
Yeah.
a lot of the American airlines, they offer close to, if not the same. So I think it's maybe like a standard when it comes to employees and the perks they get.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure a lot of people watching this might want to go apply now, but they're not hiring, right? Air
Yeah,
Canada's
not now.
not. they're not-
Maybe give it a few years.
Yeah.
a couple years before
Yeah.
they start bringing. Well, they got to bring the workforce back to its
Right,
normal state
right.
first, and then expand on that. I know you go to like Hong Kong a lot, Japan, and all
Yeah.
these places to take photos. So of these places, which one have you been to the most, and how many times? And then after that, we're going to ask you, what do you think is like the most underrated photo spot in the world? Because, you know, people love to go to like Bali, Iceland. Everybody
Yes.
goes to
It's a good
Iceland.
question.
Like, there's got to be somewhere that's like a little bit underrated and is not overpopulated by influencers and all that just yet.
Yeah. I would have to say Well, first of all, the favorite place I like going back to is Tokyo.
Yeah.
And I
The
would
guy
say,
likes his ramen.
yeah, of course.
Especially after the one you had for lunch.
Yeah. Tokyo is it's underrated and overrated at the same time.
Yeah.
And I say that because Tokyo has everything you need. It has the food, it has the culture, it has the streetwear, it has the people, it has like the convenience. They're ahead of our time.
Way ahead.
Everything just works there, right? And the reason why I keep going back is because of all those things, and it's kind of fits like my brand when it comes to what I shoot, what I like to eat, obviously.
Yeah.
And like the brands I like to shop for, right? So
yeah,
Tokyo is awesome, and for someone that hasn't gone before, everything they could imagine about Japan, the first time going, it always exceeds their expectations, and little things they pick up on just kind of surprise them. So I think Tokyo is somewhere that everyone needs to visit at least once.
But you said you've been there 14 times, and I feel like Japan at the same time is one of those places where even if you've gone like a dozen times, you would go there just to be able to live in that vibe and that environment for a few more days. Like, I mean, I've been to LA a number of times. You've been to LA way more times than I have. But after a few LA trips, you've already seen all the places you've wanted to go to. Like I've gone to like Santa Monica, how many times? Gone to Beverly Hills like 5 times, and it just gets a bit old. You're like, oh, we don't want to go to LA again. And same with like a lot of other places. Yeah. But Japan, I feel like when you go there, you don't feel as well. Certain areas you still feel like a tourist. But if you go there and you just like hang around and do your thing, like what you do here, eat, walk around, shop and stuff, you feel like you're part of the society because like. Yeah, like everybody there is so disciplined and the way they do things. They do it very wisely as well. So it takes a couple days to adjust, but it is very unique. Oh, and, like I want to go back once a year at least.
Yeah. I think going back to that, being like living somewhere versus visiting is 2 totally different things. Yeah. And I think Japan would be tough for me to live in just because of how lucky we are in Canada just to have a backyard, just somewhere where we can get fresh air anytime.
Even compared to America.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that it's different when you're traveling or visiting, but pretty much just being able to see other parts of the world, and through my job going back to Air Canada, it's opened up a lot of doors in terms of seeing how other cultures work, or how food tastes in other parts of the world, and like it just kind of all ties together and just helped me kind of create not only the brand image for my photography, but also kind of to understand where other people are coming from. Right?
Yeah, because like I know Europe, you do feel very like touristy when you go there, and it's beautiful. But I think Asia's unique in that way. Where Japan, I've nothing but good things to say about Japan and the people there. And Hong Kong is a place that I haven't been to before, but you do a lot of photos there, and I think from like yourself and Andrew and a few other photographers that I follow, it's not what I expected. It looks great in terms of like. Just like the architecture and everything, and as someone who likes architecture, I'm sure you do as well because you're in real estate. But like talk about like the architecture and how modernized some parts of Asia that you've been to.
Oh wow, yeah. So
that would surprise people.
Parts of China are actually on my list. Like for example, places like Shenzhen, and there's a few other places. But basically, when you take cities like Shanghai, you take cities like Beijing, Tokyo, Seoul, Hong Kong, even like down in Malaysia, like all these cities.
Singapore.
Yeah, Singapore. The architecture is insane, and their ideas come to life, and it's something that's in the norm, right?
Yeah.
And for photographers like me, it's really, really cool, and I love capturing these spaces because, first of all, it's stuff that you'd never see here in Vancouver or just in North America in general. But yeah, architecture in Asia is nuts, and every single city has something different to offer, especially in Asia, which is
like Shenzhen's where all the tech comes from. We know a lot of people there, and there are a lot of cases they're in the same building. Like all the innovation and products that come from Asia into North America are all within the same roof. Shanghai looks pretty nice as well. I haven't been. I was supposed to go last year, but I got shafted from the deal, so that ended up happening. I think another good transition is. We've been to airports in Canada, which I would say is much nicer than the ones in the U.S. YVR is a great airport. You go to the U.S., you go to like the Newarks, the JFKs, LaGuardia, Orlando, LAX. Just every airport is so terrible. But at the same time, the ones in Asia are significantly nicer, right?
Yeah.
What would you rank like the top airports in Asia? Singapore, I heard, is a great one.
Singapore is very, very nice. Korea is very, very nice. Hong Kong is pretty nice. It's very big, so you can get lost easily.
Yeah.
And but definitely Singapore stands out. They recently added like a new part of the airport that's really, really cool with the big waterfall, which I haven't seen yet. But
Another one?
yeah, another
Because they have like the famous one that everyone's the one where the water comes out of the roof.
Oh, I think
Yeah,
that's
the
the one. That's the one.
Yeah,
It
that
was
one's
the past couple of years.
Oh, really?
It came out. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to go to Singapore one day. But yeah, the standards in Asia for airports are just so much better.
Yeah.
I made the mistake of when going to Japan, I flew to Narita instead of Haneda.
Yeah.
And ended up taking like a long ass train.
Yeah.
And also arrived a day late because I forgot it was a time change.
Jeez.
But yeah, the airports I think out there are just so much better. Whereas America, it's like you land and everybody's just sitting on the floor like all over the place. It's crowded,
Yeah.
it's messy, it's disorganized. The air conditioning's broken, the flight ramp is broken, and the flight can't leave, and just one thing after another. Whereas out there,
Yeah.
it's just so organized. What do you think is like the biggest factor in that? Like,
I think
why?
I think they focus on the food,
Yeah,
and a lot of airports I feel like in North America don't really pay that much attention to the
Burger King
quality.
and
Yeah,
YVR.
Lots of fast food.
Yeah, even Vancouver, it's like you don't need another Tim Hortons or you don't need another Starbucks. Right?
A&W I would say should stay there. That's a nice like pre-flight,
alright.
like nice little root beer before a 12-hour flight.
Oh, it
I
can
don't
stay
know
for
about
you.
that. Yeah.
What do you see over there?
I see just variety. Just like even being in Asia, they still manage to have American food, right?
Yeah.
But then here it's the quality isn't as good. Maybe
Yeah.
because there's something stopping people from coming into these airports. But
Even Taipei had a really good
Yes.
food court. I was there for like 8 hours,
Yeah.
and I had nothing to do. I flew there by myself
Yeah.
once, and I remember the food there everything was good. You couldn't really go wrong with it. Whereas in North America, there's a bit of a stigma of a food court. Like you know what to expect. It's like
Yeah.
a cafeteria, fast crap,
Yeah.
unless you're used to it. Like even I don't think American food's that good. It's just because we're not used to stuff that's as greasy. And I also feel like in Asian countries, they want the presentation of what their first impressions of their country to be like. As soon as you
Yeah.
land, you want to feel great. Whereas in America, you land and you're just like, oh my god,
right,
like how is this even allowed?
it's very different for sure.
But
It's like-
YVR is really good. Like it's
YVR is clean. It's
yeah.
nice. Yeah, it's just the food could be a bit better.
yeah, they built it out very nicely. The whole system is
clean,
better. Yeah, it's
Well, one thing I wanted to circle back to, it was a good question by you, Justin, was like, what's an underrated spot out of everything that you see online for
Oh.
photography?
Underrated spot for
Yeah, like
photography
having
or-
traveled the world and
Right.
been to a majority of
Yeah.
some of the most major spots in the
Yeah.
world, what would you say out of all of them that you've been to is the one that maybe is least documented?
I would have to go with Korea.
that's
Seoul.
true. Yeah,
They have like very, very cool like advanced architecture that isn't documented as much as Japan, and I think it's very overshadowed by like China, and obviously Japan is like the first go-to spot for people
Yeah.
going to Asia, right?
Mm.
But Korea is totally different from everywhere else in Asia,
really.
and their architecture is very advanced, and some of my favorite photos have came from Korea. So
Is it more similar to Hong Kong or Tokyo?
That's actually really hard.
Because I feel like a lot
bit
would
of
compare it to
both.
Tokyo.
Yeah, it's a bit of architecture from Tokyo, but it's more unique in the fact that it's they have things there that are just more advanced, I'd say. Like they recently had this kind of like a 3D visual like
Oh, yes.
wave thing. Did
That
you
was
see
one of
that?
the nicest
Yeah.
videos I've seen. Have you seen that? Where
No.
like there was a building and they had this like big LED wall that curves around, but the animation that's on the screen makes it look like a water tank filling up or a wave
And
in
it's
that
like- it's
tank.
like-
Oh, crazy.
but
It's
just
super
a screen.
realistic.
Yeah, you'll have to see it after.
Yeah, and I mean,
Pretty
like
nuts.
Samsung, all the big
Yeah,
players in
yeah.
technology are actually coming out of Korea.
Yeah.
And it's always like the competition between Korea and China type of thing. And China is obviously really fast innovation. They push stuff out and they just fire it off. There's like 5 phone models for the same thing each year. But yeah, I think that's a good point. I wouldn't have thought of like Korea as being like the underrated photography spot. What would you say about like Europe? I know like Paris is a very popular place to go, and
Yeah.
after going to Switzerland, I would say Switzerland was one of the nicest places
Yeah.
I've seen, but it's not very affordable for the most part.
Yeah,
What's
I
like-
haven't been to enough of Europe for me to judge that. I thought Paris myself was very underwhelming. It's a very dirty city.
Yeah, it's a bit like New York, where you get there and it's very overcrowded. I
Yeah.
still felt like it was a cool like feel.
It was cool.
Everything's
Yeah.
very like
But,
old and Yeah, but I get what you mean. Like after like two times, you'd probably be like, I don't really have to go back to there. Whereas like if you had a weekend, you would go to Japan, have some of the good food again that you missed.
Yeah. And for photographers, Paris is really awesome for street stuff and fashion and kind of just like some portrait stuff.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like the stuff that I like to shoot, it's more just like you can only shoot the Eiffel Tower so many times, right?
Yeah, or the Pagali, the basketball court, the colored one. Yeah, it's it's because I've been to Europe more times than Asia. I've only been to Asia once in the past like 4 to 5 years. So, have you been to Bali?
No, I have not.
Really?
I want to go there with my girlfriend though.
That's like the one spot that was implying when I was saying it's like it's just too overplayed. Like I've heard mixed things about it. Like some people say it's amazing and others say it's like really crowded now and it's no longer fun.
Yeah.
I
think like you just said, Bali, people are getting mixed perceptions about it. I think it's different when you're going in there without knowing anything that people are posting online and making it seem like what it is, right? People are going to Bali expecting it to look like what people are posting it, like these influencers, right? So that kind of has an influence of where I travel to. Like, I don't want to go somewhere because it looked good on Instagram. Not necessarily.
Iceland.
Like, sometimes I do, but like, for example, like finding stuff that you didn't even expect or something that surprises you is going to make you obviously feel better instead of comparing it to what you saw before.
Or doing it differently, like putting a kayak instead of taking the 100,000th photo in front of the waterfall. Yeah. One thing I didn't know about Iceland is that everything is so spread out. I thought you would get off the plane and like just drive 20 minutes and you'd be at the waterfall. And Sebastian was like, dude, you got to be, he's like, you should not go to Iceland. You should just go to Norway or something because I don't like spending 10 hours in the car. And he was saying, each spot you'd have to drive like a huge lap around the island and stuff. We should go to Norway sometime. I've wanted to go to Norway for a long time.
I want to see the Northern Lights. I still have yet to see those, and that's something I want to shoot.
I've seen them once, but I would say it looks better in raw photos. There's so much more data on there that the eye can't see. It may have just been a very faint example. Like the place we were in was Ontario. It was Kawartha Lakes. It's very like you can sort of see the outlines, but it's not like harsh or anything. I think you do have to go far up north to be able to really see it.
It's true. I actually, when they were in Victoria, I went and sat on the beach. Yeah, it was that one time.
You're probably
where
just
it was
on
happening.
shrooms.
You could see it.
No. And we're totally gonna cut that part of it.
There's no Northern Lights in Victoria.
Yeah, there is. Trust me, man. There were 2-3 years ago. There was like a gas. It was like a little sparkle of it. You couldn't see. You could only see with the camera.
Yeah.
But like people were expecting to actually see it. But trust me, there's a crowd on the beach. We all went. We set up a time lapse, staring at the sky, and it was very faint.
Even the solar eclipse. Is it a solar eclipse? Lunar eclipse? Solar eclipse? What was that thing like 3 years ago when everybody was like...
Oh, yeah, where the sky went dark.
It was getting hyped up for
day.
like 2 weeks. Well, the sun was just doing something weird and people were like freaking out and everybody was like prepping and we were on the way back from Banff and everybody's on the side of the road like looking at it, but they were saying you can't look at it or you're going to go blind. And the news would pull all these articles from like the last eclipse, like 50 years ago, of people who are like, I stared at the eclipse and I can't see anymore, as a warning. And that was one of those things where, like, when you bring up Northern Lights, if they said there was going to be like a faint Northern Light in Victoria, the whole city would be on the beach. 100%.
I'm telling you, they were.
I think you're crazy. But
no, well, I'll pull it up after this. And you're gonna be like, okay, I guess he was right. But yeah, that was the lunar eclipse was cool. I remember that. That was 2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, some moon, sun, go over top.
It was during the day. And I actually took a photo on my phone, like a video through the sunroof, and it made my whole camera like glitch out for a second because it was so bright. It like blinded it for a second. I might even be able to find it, but it was like we're just driving, and then when this thing actually came over, I just saw a big blur on my screen, like a set of lines. It was just yellow, and I was like, that's so weird.
That's crazy.
But we've talked a lot about like architecture, like cities like Hong Kong, and that's where you take a lot of your photos. Where would you say is like the most breathtaking landscape, natural view that you've ever seen?
Iceland.
Iceland.
Yeah, hands down. Yeah.
That's not surprising.
No questions. Yeah.
Do they have a lot of variety there as far as landscape?
Is it crowded? Like every spot?
It's not crowded.
Really?
They kind of peaked in their tourism maybe about 3 years ago because of what people were posting on the internet. But when you get there, the thing with Iceland in the summer is they only get like 1 hour of half darkness, right?
Yeah.
So what we did is we'd sleep during the day, and then from like 12 a.m. to 7 a.m. We'd be out shooting, right? And there'd be no one out. So it wasn't crowded.
And the plane photo, I remember he did.
Yeah.
The abandoned flight. So that's not usually crowded.
It usually is.
How far out
it's
is
about
it?
like a 3 or 4 kilometer walk, so like a 40-minute walk.
Oh wow.
Just to get there, and it's in like the middle of nowhere. But
How long is the drive? Like for
you
people
can't
who
drive,
think
you can't drive to the plane.
oh,
you have
but
to
like the
park.
nearest part, like that you
Oh,
park from
when
the
you-
air. Say you get off the plane and you want to just go and take that
I
photo.
see. It's maybe about like a 5 or 6 hour drive.
5 and 6
Yeah.
hour drive. Wow. So what if your car runs out of battery? Like is reception or what should people
well,
know before they go to Iceland?
A lot of the car rental companies give you like a rundown of what happened, so they're prepared.
Yeah.
And like they have different types of insurance in Iceland. Like you have to pay for like sand or gravel insurance. You have
What?
to pay for your doors because it's so windy there that people, when they open the doors, the door literally flies off, right?
I feel like
you
that's
have to
something Brandon would do. I don't know why. I can just picture you like
I just swing the door
after
open.
a 6 hour car ride. I can just see Brandon like opening the door and the
Like,
door just goes with
yeah.
it. And
Anywhere in Iceland, you have to open a door like half full with two hands. Just make sure it doesn't blow off because it happens.
I've never heard that about Iceland.
No,
I have seen videos of people pushing, like they look like they're in the middle of nowhere and the car like gets stuck or something like that, and then they have to push it. And I'm like if you can't get that thing out of the gravel, how are you gonna? Like, you're screwed. There's nothing. I haven't had that experience before. I like look forward to going to Iceland, but yeah,
10-hour drive just to get to the center.
Well, it's like a ring road that goes around Iceland, and a lot
Yeah.
of the spots are in the south part of Iceland. So if you want to go all the way around, it takes at least 3 or 4 days.
yeah, that's what I heard.
Wow.
3 to 4 days. And I'm pretty bad with directions, so we go like 6 hours the wrong direction kind of thing.
It's a loop, isn't it? So you just go the opposite way.
It's kind of like it's almost like Maui. Maui's a big loop, and to get to each place is like an hour. Whereas Iceland is obviously way bigger, but you
Yeah.
can only get it's like a very natural place. Population's low that you can only get to certain areas and views if you go on the outside ring. You can't just like cut through the middle on a highway sort of thing. So if you want to get to the waterfall, it's only like a certain number of kilometers away, but you got to go all the way around the island just to get to it. Is that
Is
sort
this
of what it's
Maui?
like?
Kinda, yeah. But
Yeah, we're comparing like the
Oh, yeah.
Maui and Iceland.
The
Yeah.
road to Hana is something else. You guys driven that one?
No.
Which one?
The road to Hana? That's the outside of Maui, isn't it? It's like you're driving on the edge of a cliff. Like
No,
you walk
actually,
down and-
I took an Uber in Maui. Next time I go, I'd rent a car, but we took an
Yeah.
Uber and we had the same driver, 3 different pickups.
Did you tip him low? Like,
No, he didn't let us eat in the car.
oof. So you got him 3 different times and you kept tipping him lower?
You don't have to tip on an Uber.
Really?
No.
It shows how much I take Uber.
You had to pay a premium.
Because it hasn't been
you
in
have to
Victoria.
pay a premium in Maui to start with because there's only 3 drivers.
Gotcha.
What's another travel story you think you want to ask him, or about photography?
I think we kind of ran through all of those. Like, I wanted to go through like kind of a few questions,
Yeah,
just
of
like
course.
kind of gauntlet round of like, I think the first one, just as it being a tech priority podcast, is like, what piece of tech do you have on you all the time that's super important?
Travel
to you?
essentials, like whether it's a camera equipment, like what are some travel hacks as someone who flies a lot? What headphones do you like?
Right.
This is kind of a question we're going to start to ask all of our guests because people seemingly love to watch like everyday carry, what's in your
Right.
travel bags, even
Yeah.
though it's none of their business.
I don't mind. I'm not a huge guy into tech. I just buy what works for me. And what works for me is I always had like the QC35s, I think, the Bose
yeah,
ones.
those are good choice,
like,
yeah.
good for traveling. But then
Industry standard.
yeah,
What-
so for the shorter flights though, ever since I got my like AirPods, my
Yeah.
AirPod Pros, like the noise canceling is good enough for me to not worry about having something over my ear. So those are really awesome. But only like when I watch movies though, the AirPods obviously don't work because you need to plug them in. So I always
the pros are so you use the in-flight entertainment.
sometimes.
This guy's got to get an iPad Pro. The iPad is so much better for watching because you can download all your Netflix stuff
Right.
on there. But the headphones are a good choice. So before I would use the earbuds or the
Yeah.
QC35s. If the flight's over 7 hours, I'll throw on the
Yeah.
QC35s and then just sleep in them or something.
Right.
If it's a short flight, just plug them in, use the noise canceling earbuds to watch a movie. But then since the AirPods Pro came out, the noise canceling is good enough that you can still hear the dialogue
Yeah.
in the movies. So yeah, those are my choices. What are some other like little trinkets?
things that-
even like non-tech, like whether it's a snack, like what's your go-to snack? Because I'm guessing if you're getting these flights for double digits, you must be spending the same amount as what the flight would have costed on snacks.
Yeah, so I like to always bring like candy. Candy's like something I like to snack on. I got a sweet tooth, so candy, snacks. I'm not really huge into like bringing snacks because a lot of the longer flights they'll give me food and I'm
Yeah.
not like a picky eater, so that'll last me to when I need to land, right? So
Yeah.
But,
Smart water, the bougie waters.
Yeah. That water you gave me earlier.
They actually dropped off another one. So
nice.
Thanks to Glacier Water. If you guys want to be our first podcast sponsor, let us know because Brandon is always thirsty.
That reminds me. Next question is, I'll do this one. Was you're starting photography, brand new, knowing what you know now, what piece of advice would you give to the young Henry Hwu starting out in photography?
Oh, wow. So the first...
Just one piece.
The only piece of advice I would give is to take photos of anything and everything that you have the opportunity for, whether it's paid or unpaid, and don't take photos of things that don't interest you. But at the same time, don't be scared to try new things.
Technology.
Yeah, so I could go on and on, but that's probably the biggest piece.
Yeah.
And the fact that you won't know you won't know what you're interested in until you try everything. So.
Yeah.
And then another one is, what's like a habit or a hobby that has stayed with you for the last few years?
Or even like, what's your like travel ritual, or if there's any, like, how early do you get to the airport, or what are some like hacks and stuff
in the morning?
People always want to know like little hacks, because I feel like if you're only traveling 15 to 20 times a year, there is no routine. It's like you're playing it by ear. You just like kind of mess around and go as it goes.
My travel hack would probably be try to book the flight that it's like in red eye, so you have an extra day when you get there, right?
That's true.
That's big, because when I travel, all my trips are less than 7 days. Not by
Same
choice.
here.
Not by choice, but because like of my work schedule, right?
Yeah.
So I'd like to go in somewhere not for too long, because if it really is like something that a place that I really like, then it gives me a reason to go back instead of being there too long and not wanting to go back again, right?
When I went to LA for a week and ran out of things to do in the second day. How do you pre-plan everything? Like, do you, like photographers? That's another good question about photography, actually. A lot of times people want to hit these spots. Like there's like, you got to go to the LACMA, you got to go to Santa Monica, you got to go to Malibu, like all these different places. And when you get there, either everything's really spread out, you don't know how to get there, or you have no time, or it's crowded during the day, or it's closed. What's like your strategy to capture content? But at the same time, because you're doing it as a hobby and like for the love of it, there's no like obligation to capture content. What's like your sort of your plan with if you were to go and try to capture content on a trip?
Okay, so basically the first thing off the bat is, if I know it's something that has hours, like operating hours, I try to go right when it opens, or right when it closes. Yeah. Or if it doesn't, then obviously the time of the day where not many people are out, because I don't want to waste my time kind of just waiting. But at the same time, I completely understand that I don't have more of a right to be taking photos of somewhere that's open than someone else, right? So I respect that, but just going somewhere right when it opens, usually on like a Monday or a Tuesday, is usually the best time to go. For example, have you guys heard about the Team Lab in Tokyo?
Yeah, I went to that actually. I lined up 45 minutes to get into that lantern room, and we had about 30 seconds in there. Didn't even get a photo.
So it's basically like an exhibit that a bunch of creatives made in Japan that's expanded to other parts of Asia. I think there's one in Singapore as well.
They have two in Japan now, and Vancouver has like a replica version. Is it affiliated with it? Or no?
It's not. It's something.
Is it close enough?
It's okay. It's good for people that can't go to Japan.
But like when you go there, is the line like massive?
Yeah, it's massive. I try to go. Well, luckily I know someone that works there, so they gave me like a pass to go in a little bit earlier. But
that's key.
Things like that, just show up early, and nothing. Like going 30 minutes early goes a long way when it comes.
Do you put like a notes list? I know you were part of an app called like what was it called? Spots.
Yeah, Spots,
and it has like different spots to go.
Right.
And obviously it has different spots to go. But do you make like a list of places that you want to go? Or I know some people also make like Google Maps, and they'll pin like all the spots, and they'll pick where to go in an order. My parents like to do that. Like they like to do the whole like every second is planned. I kind of like a mixture of like some spots I want to go to, but not like a fixed schedule.
Yeah.
Are you
I like to limit it to like maybe like one spot, I guess, a day. I mean, I'm not huge into like doing everything, right? I like to pick stuff that I really, really like doing or like seeing or want to see, right? And then the other half will just be like me hitting up a friend or someone that lives in that city just to grab drinks. Like I could care less about, because it's a good balance, right? You don't want to go there. If you're going there just to take photos of spots, then you're going to be disappointed, because
that's me.
Not everything is going to be the way you envision it to be. And the second something has changed, when you have a plan like that, it kind of ruins your vibe, right? So I think it's important to leave room to do whatever you want, whether it's nothing or just finding something to do, because when you do that, it allows room to find maybe stuff that you didn't even know about, you didn't see, right?
So how many photos would you take like on a given day, or how often do you take your camera out, or is it like much less than what people would think for a
It's much less than people would think.
Yeah. I remember Toronto, actually. I think I only saw you take the camera out like once or twice, whereas I was like recording the whole time.
Yeah, so I usually know what I
Every
want,
5
what I
seconds.
want when it turns,
Yeah.
and when it comes to taking a photo. So I'll get my shot, and then I'll just kind of do more observing, try to
Yeah.
see like how I can take a photo another angle that somebody didn't, or show it in, like through my eyes, whether it's
Sure.
adding a spin to it, right?
Supreme.
Yeah, I don't think anyone has ever gotten that shot. I've never seen it.
And like I know a lot of photographers' dream is like to be featured on Complex and Hypebeast.
Mhm.
I've been featured in Hypebeast once in my entire life. It was a pretty bad photo. Sebastian was like, it's never going to get featured. And then one day he's like 4 months later, after you tag him, you get featured on it. What's like your tips for getting featured that first time? Aside from taking a good photo.
My biggest tip into getting featured is don't take photos to get featured.
That's a good one, actually. Because we're always like, oh, if we put a Supreme magazine in it and put like a nice brand new pair of Yeezys and everything,
Yeah.
we're going to get featured.
Because if you put what other people think is going to be featured, then you're just gonna blend in with everyone else.
That's true.
Like if you do something different and keep it consistent, it becomes a part of your image, and when people
Yeah.
see that, they want to show that to kind of balance the whole, I guess, streetwear culture, or the kind of like the lifestyle or whatever, right?
For sure.
So when you stick to something and you're consistent with it, then it becomes a part of you, and whenever that is shown, that people will know it's you and not get it mistaken for anything else. So yeah,
Like when Drake
pretty
reposts
much.
your photo.
Yeah, savage.
Would you send Drake the raw if he asked for it?
I don't think so. No, no special treatment.
Especially after the editing job on the Instagram.
Yeah.
So thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Feature Podcast. A huge thanks to Henry for coming down to Victoria as well. It seems like this podcast is bringing people to the island.
Yeah, anytime. Just 10-minute flight on an Airbus.
When was the last time you came to Victoria?
It was about 15 years ago.
Yeah, so that was, I was 8 and you were
I was 9
or 10 field trip.
9 or 10.
Yeah, so a lot of the things that you're seeing today were not built at the time. So yeah, it's I guess I don't want to be stuck in Victoria forever, but it's a good way to bring some friends down here and hang out, talk about stuff, and take them all to the same restaurant.
Boom batting.
Yep, let's hope they cook the pasta next time. But thank you guys for watching. Make sure you leave a review over on Apple and drop a like in this video if you're watching it on YouTube. I feel like this is definitely one of these episodes where the YouTube aspect and the visual aspect plays a big role. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. We have many more guests coming up, and we'll talk to you guys in the next episode.